Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his Liberal Party have ordered one of the biggest crackdowns against law-abiding citizens in the history of democracy. Through powers I didn't even know existed, he successfully banned what he deems to be assault weapons from legal gun owners overnight. So during a pandemic that's been crippling industries left and right, Trudeau was able to effectively cripple the firearms industry and ban shooting sports in Canada as a whole. Now, it doesn't stop there. Law-abiding citizens who've jumped through numerous hoops and spent thousands of dollars to be able to acquire and use their weapons legally will now be forced to surrender these weapons to the federal government within a specified time frame. If they don't do so within that specified time frame, they'll be subject to criminal charges, which could lead to prison time. If you ask me, that sounds like communism. Now for some backstory. This all took place immediately after a mentally deranged gunman took the lives of 22 innocent people in Nova Scotia. This was Canada's worst mass shooting in history. This gunman did not have a firearms license in Canada. He was not legally in possession of any of these firearms. It is widely believed that he acquired these firearms because they were smuggled from the United States illegally into Canada, which has been documented to be an ongoing issue. Now, what I'm struggling to come to terms with is how these sorts of laws will affect someone who's willing to commit 22 homicides and disregard the law to that extent. How will laws against the ownership and acquisition of certain firearms affect someone who doesn't care about committing 22 homicides, numerous arsons, and killing literally anybody who gets in his way of doing so? I highly doubt that he will consider whether or not a firearm is prohibited in Canada when he uses it to commit mass murders. That simply doesn't make sense. Instead of victimizing law-abiding gun owners, how about we stop the flow of illegal firearms from the United States into Canada, or at least lower it or lessen it? Strengthen the powers of the Canada Border Services Agency and aid them in the detection and seizure of those firearms which are flowing illegally from the States into Canada. How about we keep track of the 500,000 Canadians who are prohibited from owning firearms and making more strict guidelines for them in terms of them surrendering their address to the RCMP and things of that nature. Here in Canada, if you legally own a firearm, it must be registered and you must give your address to the National Police Force, which is the RCMP. If you're one of those 500,000 Canadians who's prohibited from owning a firearm, you're actually not required to do so. That doesn't make any sense. Let's be clear. This is an attack on democracy as we know it. This is an attack on law-abiding Canadian citizens. This is an attack on some of the most responsible gun owners on the planet. We have some of the strictest firearms laws in the world here in Canada, and they work. Instances of legal gun owners using those firearms to commit crimes are very few and far between. In fact, in my research, I was really unable to find a statistic that demonstrated this amount. They're incredibly rare. That's simply not an issue that we deal with here in Canada, because like I said previously, our firearms owners are some of the most responsible in the world because of the amount of hoops you need to jump through in order to become one of them. This is just another instance of the federal government ignoring statistics and making stupid decisions, and those decisions only have an impact on our law-abiding citizens. It's an overreach of power. I personally think it's criminal, and Canadians shouldn't stand for it.